My beloved, be happy every day, not because life is perfect, but because your heart does not belong to what is temporary. So often we postpone happiness, telling ourselves we will be content when something changes, when people treat us better, when circumstances improve, when pain disappears. But happiness was never meant to be a destination waiting at the end of suffering. It is a choice rooted in where you place your trust. The world will always be uncertain, people will always fall short, and life will test you in ways you did not ask for. Yet peace was never meant to come from control. It comes from surrender. When you stop demanding that life obey your expectations, your heart becomes lighter. True happiness begins the moment you release what was never yours to carry and anchor your joy in something unshakable. When your happiness is tied to meaning rather than outcomes, every day, no matter how heavy, can still be filled with light. We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness in places where it was never meant to live. We attach it to people, to outcomes, to moments that were never promised to last. And then we wonder why our hearts feel so heavy, why disappointment feels personal, why peace feels so fragile. The truth is not that happiness is impossible, but that we have been placing it in the wrong hands. We give our joy to things that change, to people who are imperfect, to circumstances that rise and fall without warning. And when they shift, as they always do, our happiness collapses with them. Not because we are weak, but because we were never meant to build something eternal on something temporary. From the very beginning, the heart was designed to love deeply, but it was also designed to belong to something greater than this world. When the heart forgets that, it begins to cling. It holds tighter than it should. It demands permanence from what was only meant to pass through. And this clinging becomes the source of so much pain. We say we are unhappy because someone left, because something failed, because life did not unfold the way we planned. But beneath all of that is a deeper truth. We are unhappy because we expected control where none was promised. Every time we say, I'll be happy when this works out, we hand over our peace to an uncertain future. Every time we say, I can't be happy because this person disappointed me, we allow someone else to hold the keys to our emotional well-being. And slowly, without realizing it, we become prisoners of expectations. Expectations of people, expectations of life, expectations of ourselves. And when those expectations are not met, we do not just feel sad, we feel betrayed, as though happiness was stolen from us, when in reality, we gave it away freely. There is a difference between caring and clinging. Caring allows love to exist without suffocation. Clinging demands guarantees in a world that offers none. When you cling, your happiness becomes conditional. It depends on text messages being replied to, on plans working out, on being appreciated the way you imagined. But when you learn to care without clinging, you discover a quieter, stronger form of happiness. One that is not shaken by every disappointment. One that does not disappear the moment things go wrong. So many hearts are exhausted, not because life is too hard, but because they are carrying what they were never meant to carry. Control, the need for certainty, the demand that everything makes sense right now. But peace does not come from understanding everything. Peace comes from trusting even when you do not understand. Happiness is not born when life finally behaves the way you want it to. It is born when you accept that life will unfold as it is meant to, and you choose to remain grounded anyway. Detachment does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop worshiping what was never meant to be your source. It means you stop asking creation to fill a space that only something eternal can fill. When you detach your heart from outcomes, you free yourself from the constant fear of loss. When you detach from people as your source of worth, you stop shrinking or expanding based on how they treat you. When you detach from success as your identity, failure no longer defines you. So much suffering comes from the illusion that if we just hold on tighter, we can prevent loss. But loss is not always a punishment. Sometimes it is a redirection. Sometimes it is mercy in disguise. Sometimes what leaves your life is making room for something that could not arrive otherwise. But you cannot see that when your heart is gripping too tightly. A clenched hand cannot receive. Happiness every day does not mean every day will feel good. It means your inner world is no longer held hostage by your outer circumstances. It means you stop waiting for permission to be at peace. You stop postponing joy until everything aligns perfectly, because life rarely does. There will always be unfinished business, unanswered questions, unhealed wounds, but happiness does not require completion. It requires alignment. Alignment happens when your heart knows where it belongs, when it no longer panics at every change, when it no longer collapses at every loss, when disappointment no longer feels like the end of you. You begin to realize that what hurts you most is not what happens, but what you were attached to happening. And once you see that, something shifts. You begin to loosen your grip. You begin to breathe again. This does not happen overnight. Detachment is a practice. It is a daily decision to return your heart to where it was always meant to rest. Some days you will forget. Some days you will cling again. And that does not mean you failed. It means you are human. But each time you notice it, each time you gently redirect your heart, you grow stronger, you grow freer. When your happiness is no longer dependent on people being who you want them to be, you stop resenting them for being human. When your happiness is no longer dependent on life going according to plan, setbacks no longer feel like personal attacks. When your happiness is no longer dependent on constant comfort, pain no longer destroys you. It teaches you, it refines you, it softens you. So many people are waiting for life to give them permission to be happy. They say, after this problem is solved, I'll rest. After I heal, I'll smile. After things calm down, I'll feel peace. But life does not slow down on command. Problems are replaced by new ones. Struggles shift forms. If you wait for the storm to pass before you learn how to be steady, you may wait forever. Happiness every day is not about ignoring pain. It is about not letting pain define the entire landscape of your heart. It is about learning how to hold sorrow in one hand and hope in the other. It is about allowing grief to exist without letting it erase gratitude. Detachment does not numb you, it grounds you. It allows you to feel deeply without drowning. When you stop trying to control everything, you begin to notice how much energy you were wasting. Energy that could have been used to heal, to grow, to love more intentionally, to live more fully. Control convinces you that if you worry enough, you can prevent heartbreak. But worry has never saved anyone from loss. It has only stolen moments that could have been lived. True happiness is quiet. It does not shout. It does not beg for validation. It does not depend on applause. It is the calm knowing that even if things fall apart, you will not fall apart with them. It is the strength of a heart that knows its worth does not rise and fall with circumstances. And when you reach that place, you stop chasing happiness like it is running away from you. You realize it was never something to be chased. It was something to be uncovered, buried beneath fear, beneath attachment, beneath unrealistic expectations. And as you remove those layers, slowly, gently, happiness begins to breathe again within you. You learn that being happy every day does not mean smiling through suffering. It means trusting through uncertainty. It means choosing meaning over mood. It means anchoring your heart in something that does not change, even when everything else does. And from that place, even ordinary days become bearable. Even hard days carry purpose. Even painful moments are held with dignity. When your heart is no longer tangled in what it cannot control, you finally experience what freedom feels like. Not the freedom of having everything go your way, but the freedom of knowing you will be okay even when it does not. And that freedom is the foundation of a happiness that does not flicker with every change, that does not collapse under pressure, that does not disappear when life reminds you of its unpredictability. Pain has a way of convincing us that something has gone wrong, that we have been forgotten, that life has taken a wrong turn and left us behind. When something hurts deeply, our first instinct is to question meaning. We ask why this is happening, what we did to deserve it, and whether joy has permanently slipped beyond our reach. But pain was never a sign that life has lost its purpose. It is often the place where purpose is being formed, shaped quietly in the unseen parts of us. So much of our understanding of happiness is built on the idea that comfort equals goodness and difficulty equals failure. We grow up believing that a good life is one that feels easy, that flows smoothly, that protects us from heartbreak. And when pain arrives, as it inevitably does, we panic. We assume something must be wrong with us, with our choices, with our path. But what if pain is not an interruption of your journey, but a part of it? What if the very thing you are trying to escape is the thing that is teaching you how to become whole? Pain strips away illusions. It removes the layers of false security we build around ourselves. When everything is going well, it is easy to believe that we are in control, that we understand how life works, that we are safe as long as we do the right things. Pain exposes how fragile those beliefs were. It humbles us. It reminds us that life is not something we master, but something we move through with trust. There are wounds that change us forever, not because they destroy us, but because they awaken parts of us that were dormant. Before pain, we often live on the surface of ourselves. We chase achievements, approval, distractions. We confuse busyness with purpose and noise with fulfillment. Pain slows us down. It forces us inward. It asks us to sit with questions we were too busy to ask before. And in that stillness, something honest begins to emerge. Pain teaches us how to be gentle, first with ourselves, then with others. It breaks the arrogance of assuming that strength means never hurting. It redefines strength as the courage to feel without becoming bitter. There is a depth of compassion that can only be learned through suffering. You begin to recognize pain in others without them having to explain it. You listen differently. You love differently. You forgive more easily, not because what happened was acceptable, but because you understand how heavy life can be. Happiness every day does not mean a life untouched by pain. It means a life where pain is not wasted, where suffering does not turn into resentment, where hardship does not harden the heart. Pain can either make you close off or open up. It can either convince you that life is cruel or teach you how precious softness is in a world that often feels harsh. Some of the most meaningful transformations happen quietly, in moments no one applauds. In the nights when you cry alone. In the mornings when getting out of bed feels like an act of courage. In the long seasons where answers do not come quickly. These moments do not look like progress from the outside, but inside, something is shifting. Your values change. Your priorities rearrange themselves. What once felt urgent loses its grip. What once seemed small becomes sacred. Pain also teaches you how to let go of who you thought you had to be. It dissolves identities that were built on performance, success, or approval. When those things are taken away, you are left with a question that can no longer be avoided. Who are you when everything you leaned on is gone? And while that question is terrifying, it is also liberating. Because it leads you back to something more authentic, more grounded, more real. There are lessons pain teaches that comfort never could. Gratitude becomes deeper when it is no longer naive. Joy becomes more intentional when it is no longer assumed. You stop taking ordinary moments for granted because you understand how easily they can disappear. A quiet afternoon, a sincere conversation, a moment of peace becomes a gift rather than a given. Many people believe happiness means the absence of pain, so they spend their lives running from discomfort. They numb themselves with distractions, with constant stimulation, with shallow pleasures. But numbing pain also numbs joy. When you refuse to feel deeply, you lose access to the full spectrum of being alive. Pain, when faced honestly, expands your capacity for joy rather than shrinking it. There is also purpose in the way pain connects us. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, even when they feel isolating. Every human heart carries unseen battles. Every smile hides a story. Pain dissolves the illusion that everyone else has it figured out. It equalizes us. It creates bridges of understanding where judgment once stood. Sometimes pain does not come with clear explanations or neat resolutions. Sometimes it lingers longer than you expected. Sometimes it reshapes your life in ways you did not choose. Purpose does not always mean understanding. It does not always mean closure. Sometimes purpose simply means growth that cannot be rushed. Healing that cannot be forced. Wisdom that arrives slowly, layer by layer. You are not behind because you are hurting. You are not broken because you feel pain deeply. Sensitivity is not a weakness. It is evidence of a heart that is alive, responsive, capable of love. Pain only becomes destructive when it is ignored, denied, or allowed to turn into bitterness. When it is acknowledged, processed, and held with patience, it becomes transformative. Happiness every day is not about pretending pain does not exist. It is about allowing happiness and pain to coexist without one canceling the other. It is about recognizing that a difficult season does not define your entire life. It is about trusting that even now, especially now, something meaningful is unfolding within you. Some of the strongest people are those who have learned how to carry pain without letting it poison their spirit. They do not rush their healing. They do not compare their journey to others. They honor their wounds without building their identity around them. They understand that pain is a chapter, not the whole story. There will be days when happiness feels distant, when pain feels louder than hope. Those days do not erase your progress. They do not invalidate your strength. They are part of being human. Purpose is not always visible in the moment. Sometimes it only becomes clear in hindsight when you look back and realize how much you grew, how much you changed, how much you survived. Pain also teaches you patience with life. It softens your expectations. It reminds you that everything unfolds in its own time. When you stop demanding instant relief, you begin to find peace in small increments, a breath that feels lighter, a thought that hurts less than it did yesterday, a moment of calm where there was once chaos. There is dignity in enduring pain without losing your values, in choosing kindness when anger would be easier, in choosing hope when despair feels justified. These choices may feel small, but they shape the kind of person you become. They define your inner world long after the pain has passed. Purpose is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is simply learning how to stay open in a world that has given you reasons to close. Sometimes it is learning how to trust again after being hurt. Sometimes it is learning how to be patient with yourself while you heal. Pain does not mean you are failing at life. It often means life is teaching you something that comfort never could. And when you begin to see pain not as an enemy, but as a teacher, something inside you softens. You stop fighting reality. You stop asking why me and begin asking what now. You stop measuring happiness by how painless your life is and begin measuring it by how deeply you live, how honestly you feel, how intentionally you grow. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a reaction to good circumstances, as something we feel when life gives us reasons to smile. But true gratitude is not dependent on abundance, ease, or success. It is a way of seeing, a lens through which even ordinary, imperfect days are infused with meaning. Without gratitude, life becomes a constant comparison, a relentless measuring of what is missing. With gratitude, life softens. The same days remain, the same responsibilities, the same challenges, but the heart experiences them differently. So many people believe happiness will arrive when their lives look different, when they have more time, more money, more recognition, more certainty. And until then, they wait. They postpone contentment. They tell themselves that these present moments are merely obstacles to endure on the way to a better future. But gratitude interrupts that waiting. It gently insists that life is happening now, not later. That meaning is available here, not just in some imagined version of tomorrow. Ordinary days make up most of our lives. Rarely are we living in moments of dramatic transformation or visible success. Most days are repetitive. Waking up tired, completing tasks that feel unnoticed, navigating small frustrations, sharing brief conversations. And when gratitude is absent, these days blur together, dismissed as insignificant. But when gratitude is present, the ordinary becomes sacred. The mundane becomes meaningful, not because it changes, but because you finally see it. Gratitude teaches you how to slow down enough to notice. To notice the quiet stability of routines that hold your life together. To notice the people who show up consistently, even if quietly. To notice the small mercies woven into your days that once went unacknowledged. A warm cup of tea, a moment of silence. A body that carries you through another day. These things rarely demand attention, but they sustain you nonetheless. Without gratitude, dissatisfaction grows unchecked. You may achieve what you once prayed for, only to feel empty because your heart has already moved on to the next desire. Gratitude anchors you in the present long enough to actually experience what you have worked for. It reminds you that fulfillment is not found in constant pursuit, but in conscious presence. Gratitude also changes your relationship with time. Instead of rushing through moments, you begin to inhabit them. You stop viewing life as a series of obstacles between you and happiness, and begin to see happiness woven into the journey itself. Even waiting becomes bearable when you recognize that waiting is still living. That growth often happens quietly, invisibly, while you are convinced nothing is changing. There is a humility in gratitude that softens the ego. It reminds you that much of what sustains you was never earned, only given. This awareness dissolves entitlement. It replaces resentment with reverence. You stop asking why things are not better and begin asking how you can honor what already exists. Gratitude does not deny hardship. It simply refuses to let hardship erase everything else. When you practice gratitude, comparison loses its grip on you. You stop measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. You stop assuming that happiness is always somewhere else, in someone else's story. Gratitude roots you in your own life, in your own journey, with all its imperfections and unfinished chapters. And from that rootedness, a quieter contentment grows. Gratitude is especially powerful in seasons that feel unremarkable or stagnant. When progress seems slow, when days feel repetitive, when excitement feels distant. These are the moments when gratitude becomes an act of resistance against despair. It says that your life has value even when it is not dramatic, that you matter even when you are not achieving something visible. There is also healing in gratitude, not the forced kind that dismisses pain, but the honest kind that acknowledges sorrow while still recognizing goodness. Gratitude does not require you to deny what hurts. It simply asks you not to let pain consume your entire field of vision. You learn to hold grief and appreciation in the same heart without one canceling the other. Gratitude trains the heart to recognize abundance in subtle forms. It teaches you that abundance is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is stability, sometimes it is safety, sometimes it is the absence of chaos. These forms of abundance are easy to overlook precisely because they do not announce themselves, but they are no less valuable. When gratitude becomes a daily practice, happiness stops feeling fragile. You are no longer dependent on extraordinary events to feel fulfilled. You stop chasing constant stimulation. You stop believing that joy must always be intense to be real. Instead, happiness becomes quieter, steadier, more resilient. It lives in consistency rather than excitement. Gratitude also reshapes how you interpret setbacks. Instead of viewing them as proof that life is unfair, you begin to see them as part of a larger picture that you may not fully understand yet. You become more patient with delays, more gentle with yourself during failures. Gratitude does not erase disappointment, but it prevents disappointment from becoming bitterness. There is something grounding about recognizing that this moment, however ordinary, will never come again. This version of your life is temporary. These exact circumstances will shift. Gratitude honors the fleeting nature of time by being present rather than distracted. It allows you to say this matters even if no one else sees it. Gratitude also deepens relationships. When you stop taking people for granted, your interactions change. You listen more attentively. You appreciate effort rather than perfection.